Good morning, Year 6. Welcome back to your science lesson. So today is Friday, the 26th of February. This should be our first science lesson back. So I'll start sharing my screen now and we can get straight into the lesson. So today, your learning objective is to explore inheritance and variation. Okay, and our big question is, what do we inherit from our parents? What do we inherit from our parents? So have a think about that throughout our lesson. And hopefully by the end, we can come to answer it. So your success criteria is on the screen. It is to recognize that living things produce offspring, define what inheritance is, define variation in regards to inheritance, explain why inheritance occurs in offspring, and identify characteristics you've inherited from your parents. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is to have a little think about this question at the top of the screen. What do you already know about evolution and inheritance? Okay, and I've got a little mind map sort of template here, so feel free to create a small mind map or just note down some ideas of what you already know about evolution and inheritance. Okay, and then we'll be able to come back to this at the end and hopefully update it and have a lot more information around this. So your just checking is on the screen now. What I've learned before is obviously empty. There's nothing there because we're starting a new topic. You've got your last unit, your last term, and your last year. Okay, so your questions are up there. Have a go at them and I'll come back to you with the answers. Okay, Essex. So your answers are up on screen now. So your last unit, cold-blooded vertebrates with dry, scaly skin who usually lay soft-shelled eggs on land. Which group of vertebrates does this description describe? And the answer is reptiles, okay? Last term on the healthy bodies topic, which of these vitamins is lacking when suffering with scurvy, like many pirates? And the answer is vitamin C. Vitamin C, okay? Lots of pirates used to take lots of fruit, citrusy fruits on board with them to avoid this scurvy, okay? Your last year was Earth and space. So which of these is not spherical? The Earth, the Sun, a satellite dish, and the Moon. And the answer is a satellite dish, okay? That is the object which isn't spherical. So reinforcing our big question, what do we inherit from our parents? Make sure you remember to keep thinking about this. And now we'll look at our starters. So actually, it's a video. So I'll click on this video and then we can come back and discuss it after. Okay, so I've got the video up now. Make sure you have a listen and then we'll discuss it afterwards.
Greetings, amateur. Has anyone ever told you that you look like your parents? That's because we inherit characteristics or traits from our parents, like our eye colour, skin colour, or height. This is my dear mother and father. I may look like my dad, but I'm nowhere near as clumsy as he was. And here's me and my brothers and sisters. We've all inherited key characteristics from our parents. We've all got big noses and curly hair. We aren't exact copies of our parents. We've all got differences or variations. Meet my dogs, Beans and Toast. Beans the Labrador and Toast the Poodle. If these two have puppies, they make a Labradoodle, and she's got a mix of characteristics from both her mum and dad. But you don't get everything from your parents, like your hairstyle. Groovy. Now, where are my dog biscuits?
Okay, Essex, so well done for watching that. I'm just going to get the PowerPoint back up and we can continue. Okay, and we're back. So thinking about our big question, what do we inherit from our parents? So I hope that that video has given you a couple more ideas that will help you answer that question, right? Okay, so let's look at some vocabulary for today. So I've put our learning objective up here on the screen to explore inheritance and variation. So I've highlighted some key vocabulary. To explore is just simply to investigate or search out, as we know. Inheritance is the name for the passing of traits or characteristics from parents to offspring, okay? So inheritance is what offspring or children get from their parents, okay? So the passing of traits or characteristics. Variation is offspring will have many different characteristics to their parents, and this is called variation. Okay, so variation is the amount of different things that you will gain from parents. Okay, a characteristic is simply just a feature or a quality that belongs to something. And then the final one here is genes. Okay, so this is a unit of heredity which is transferred from a parent to offspring. Okay, and this determines some of the characteristics you get. Okay, so a gene is just a unit which is transferred from the parent to the offspring, which determines some of these characteristics. Okay, so keep in mind some of this vocabulary, and if you need to go back in the video and see it again, feel absolutely free. So let's speak now about Charles Darwin. Okay, so I'm sure lots of you will have heard about Charles Darwin, you'll know his name, but let's watch this 5-minute clip just to find out a little bit more information about him. So give me a moment and I'll get the clip up. Okay, Six, so I've got the video up now, so listen carefully. There'll be a couple questions after this video for you to answer, so listen to the information.
Who proposed a brand new idea to explain the origin of all species on Earth and wrote it all down in a book called On the Origin of Species? Yep, this guy, Charles Darwin. Adventurer, writer, scientist and big beard fan. Charles Robert Darwin was born on the 12th of February 1809 in Shrewsbury and lived in a massive house called the Mount. From a young age, Charlie had an interest in natural history and collecting things. But the theory that made Darwin famous didn't come to him overnight. He didn't have an Isaac Newton moment where a bird flew into his face and he was like, you know what? These birds have changed over many years based on their environment. It was in fact extensive research and life experience that helped him make one of the biggest scientific discoveries of the Victorian age, or of any age really. So, we need to tell the whole story, starting with the beagle. No, not the dog. Although yes, I'm sure beagles are a part of Darwin's theory too. But in this case, the beagle is the name of a ship. A ship that Darwin found himself on in 1831, a few years before the Victorian era technically began, but stay with me. The voyage was only supposed to last for 2 years, but then the captain was like, yep, we're running a tad late. How late? Well, we're about 3 years behind schedule. Oh. But that did mean more time to collect samples from exotic islands, which Darwin was pretty happy about. Some of the most important and beautiful islands that Darwin visited were the Galapagos Islands, a small cluster of tropical islands just off the coast of North-South America. North-South. A small cluster of islands west of Ecuador. There. The Galapagos Islands are so important, David Attenborough made a TV show about them. The islands are in the Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean on Earth. They're tropical and very close to the equator, the imaginary line that runs across the centre of the Earth. This means they have a warm climate and a rainy season, great conditions for all sorts of life. While Darwin was exploring the Galapagos Islands, he made lots of observations, running around like, ooh, look at that. That's an interesting animal. Oh, another interesting thing. Well, I'll be an interesting plant. I love it here. Darwin collected samples and made drawings in his notebook of the animals and plants that he saw on his travels, noting down the smallest details and being scientifically thorough. Recording observations is all part of the scientific method. The scientific method is a system that helps scientists to find out if their ideas are correct. It's broken down into simple steps. First, you have to come up with a theory called a hypothesis. Then do some research and record your observations. Then develop your theory more, and then see if it makes sense in different scenarios. After all that, you'll know if your theory or hypothesis works and if you need to make adjustments. While Darwin was on the Galapagos Islands, he was researching a new hypothesis. Why do we find different kinds of birds and animals in different parts of the world? He did some research, made some observations and drew some drawings of birds. And after much thought, he realised the birds on each island are all finches. but they have different beaks. Then Charlie had a brainwave. His research had led him to a new theory, evolution through natural selection. Natural selection works on the principle of survival of the fittest, meaning the animal most fit for survival will live and pass on the traits that help it to survive. Like, if you're a lizard and you need to run away from something because it's trying to eat you, if you run faster than all your mates, you'll survive. Soz mates. And then you can run off and pass on your speedy running skills to the next generation of lizards. Darwin figured that's why the birds have different beaks. They all eat different things, and so to survive, they need different beaks. And that's what gets passed on. He was onto something. So he wrote it all down in a book called On the Origin of Species, and on the 24th of November 1859, it was published. The book was a big hit, but not everyone agreed with Darwin's theories, and it sparked mass debates amongst scientists, the public, and the church. Today, Darwin's theory is widely accepted as the explanation for evolution worldwide. Darwin revolutionized the way we understand life on Earth and how it changes. It helped us understand how humans can have an impact on animals by changing their environment. It also helped us to understand something called selective breeding. Selective breeding is where humans choose to develop certain traits over others, like how we domesticated animals into pets. That's why German shepherds are so big. We wanted them that way. Charles Darwin is one of the biggest names in history. He was an island exploring, diagram drawing, bird watching, book writing, world-changing scientist who helped to explain more about life on Earth than any other scientist before him. And that's why he is the biggest name in Victorian science.
Okay, so well done for listening to that Year 6. I know it was a little bit long, but now if you need any of the information, you're able to just go back through the video and re-watch it, okay? So I'll just go back to the slides and then we can get on and answer some questions about it. All right, Year 6, well done once again for watching that. We're back on the slides now. So here I've got a little pop quiz for that video. What was the scientist's full name? In which ocean were the Galapagos Islands? And order the stages of the scientific method. Okay, so pause the screen, have a go at those, and then come back to the answers. All right, so your answers are up on screen now. So the scientist's full name, Charles Robert Darwin. The Galapagos Islands were in the Pacific Ocean, and the stages of the scientific method go development, research, hypothesis, different scenarios, and adjustments. Okay, so if you remember, this being put up in the video, this is the correct order. Okay, so well done if you got those correct, and let's move on. So what really is inheritance, and what does it mean if you inherit something? So we've heard this a couple of times. Now it says discuss with someone. Obviously you might not be able to do that, but have a think in your head. Give the screen a pause, perhaps, maybe write down a couple notes, see if you can answer any of these questions. So what is inheritance? What is variation? And what characteristics did you get from your parents? So in science, inheritance has a special meaning, okay? And this is the name for the passing of traits or characteristics from parents to offspring. So this foal in this image here inherited a very distinctive characteristic from its mother. Can you see what it is? Can you see what it is? Okay, so I'll try and make it a little bit bigger. Can you see the characteristic which is picked up from its mother? Okay, so the answer is the foal has inherited a distinctive white facial mask from its mother. Okay, so you can see its mother has this white patch in between her eyes going down her nose, and the foal, its offspring, has also got the same thing, and this is what it inherited from its mother. Okay, its offspring inherited that distinctive characteristic. So which traits or characteristics do you think that you have inherited from your parents? So discuss your ideas or think about your ideas in your head. If you want to discuss it with somebody at home, feel free. And then perhaps, what do your parents think they have passed on? So if they're around, go and ask them, what do your parents think they have passed on to you? Okay, so have a think about that in your head. Give the screen a pause and then come back. Okay, so did you think of any of these type of things? We got hair color, eye color, build, so the way your body is, the way your body's built, nose shape, mouth shape, and knobbly knees. Okay, so some inherited characteristics are a little bit weird. So like rolling your tongue, or having the second toe longer than your big toe, or your earlobes joined to the side of your head. Okay, some people have attached earlobes to their heads and some people's are detached. Okay, and this is an inherited characteristic. So your hair color, your nose shape, your mouth and eye color, these things are more obvious sort of distinctive features. Other things such as your toes or your knobbly knees are a bit less noticeable, but these are also inherited from your parents. So what does variation mean? Discuss your ideas, have a think in your head. What does variation mean? Okay, so when we are talking about inheritance, the word variation has a special meaning, okay? And variation occurs in species from generation to generation. Although an offspring will have some similar characteristics to its parents, it will also have many different characteristics, and this is called variation. And it's a completely normal process that occurs in all life cycles of all plants and animals, okay? So when you're born, you're not going to inherit everything off your parents. You're not going to have every single feature they have. You're going to have a variety. You're going to have some things from one parent, some things from another parent, but not everything. So here are just a few ways in which offspring might vary from their parents, okay? So sheep with white wool may occasionally produce offspring with black wool, okay? And this is obviously making them look very different. Corn from the same parent plant can have very different colors, as you can see in this picture here. And yeah, occasionally parents produce offspring with albinism, okay? A disorder which is recognizable due to the lack of pigment in the skin, okay? And this is what is called being albino, okay? Which makes you look very pale. You don't have much coloration in your skin, okay? So other variations are less visible. For example, some offspring may have a greater resistance to disease than their parents, okay? So they might have more of a built-up immune system than their parents, and this can also be a variation. Variation can be clearly seen when plants and animals crossbreed, okay? You will very easily see this with dogs, as used in the example here. I'm sure we've all got either friends or own yourself a dog which is crossbreeded, okay? So which characteristics has this offspring inherited from its parents? So we've got a poodle up here and a Labrador, and then we've got our Labradoodle in the middle, okay? So you can see it's got the curly hair of the poodle, but it's got the same sort of build as the Labrador, doesn't it? So you can see that it has a variety of different characteristics that it's inherited from its parents. Another one, yeah, is the zebra and the donkey. Okay, the zebra and the donkey. So which characteristics has the offspring inherited from its parents? Have a think, see if you can answer the question. Okay, so as you can see, the legs are stripy like the zebra, but its overall build and the ears are the same as a donkey, okay? They're quite similar animals anyway, other than their colors, okay? So they've got a variety of the different colors. So let's take a look at the girl, okay? This is going to be our main activity, looking at this picture here. So let's take a look at the girl. What characteristics has she inherited from her mother, and what characteristics has she inherited from her father? And what characteristics might she have that aren't necessarily inherited? Okay, so these are the questions that we're going to be answering for our main task. Okay, right, yeah, we're going to be completing the quiz on teams as well. But for this activity, we'd love for you to complete it with a picture of you and your parents. and send it into the Year 6 email. Okay, so we'd love to see a photo of you and your parents, and then you can write up about what you think you have inherited from each of your parents, and then you can send that in to us, okay? On the quiz, there'll be an activity just like this one, okay? So selecting the 2 parents of this type of offspring, okay? So we can see that it is the tall blue and yellow type color, which is very similar to Little Miss Sporty, but it's got the same shape and build as Mr. Sneeze, okay? So you can see that this offspring is from the parents of Mr. Sneeze and Little Miss Sporty, okay? So the questions will look very similar to this on the quiz, but make sure you try and complete this activity as well. So you can either use this photo here or use one with you and your parents and then send it into the email. Well done for today's lesson, Year 6. I know it was a little bit of a long one, so well done for concentrating, and I will see you soon.